Behold, Nautilus, the sword of the ocean.
They're making it where? What's up, guys? Welcome to the breakdown where we talk about everything cars, news, and reviews. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So apparently Lincoln has released the Nautilus, and the Nautilus is the successor to the MKX. But there's a few things that are going to change for good or bad, and we're going to go and find out. So stick around and stay tuned because you are now watching the breakdown. As always, if you're new to the channel, feel free to like and subscribe. It always means a lot to me in the YouTube algorithm. And I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. So the Lincoln Nautilus was released a couple of days ago. And if you check on YouTube, you'll see tons and tons and tons of reviews praising it for its amazing styling, its sleek design, and massive, massive, massive screen that I'll get into in a minute. But there's a few things that are changing. And so there's some interesting quirks about it. Quite frankly, I know I sound like Debbie Downer every time with my thumbnails and shit, but to be honest with you, I think that the car industry is truly changing in a way we have never seen before. And to be honest, it seems as though Lincoln has decided to go the route of Buick and to begin to import the Lincoln Nautilus in China. Now, if you don't know anything about the Lincoln Nautilus, it is manufactured in Ontario, Canada, and Canada is home to a lot of different cars. Buick actually made the Regal back in Canada as well, and the Honda Civic for a long time. Before moving their plant to Indiana, the Honda Civic was also made in Canada for years. But it seems as though the American markets are beginning to lose faith in the American markets, and they're moving their way over to China. And so I'm gonna go ahead and go over the specs of the Lincoln Nautilus and what it looks like and all that good shit, but I'm also gonna go over a few observations that I have. So let's go ahead and get into it. When the Lincoln Nautilus was presented a couple of days ago, it was stunning. I have got to say that at least from a design cue and elements perspective, it has definitely come up from where it was. I believe that this was inspired by the Corsair, and the Corsair is the smaller version of this. And the Lincoln Nautilus to me is probably my favorite. I like that and the Aviator. And there's a couple of trims, there's not a lot. As of right now, there's only about 4 trims, and usually the black trim is the highest of the high. Now going into the front of the truck is bad. You hear me? I'm talking about bad bitch status.
You don't need to be sucking down a hookah, bad bitch, baddie.
Bad hookahs everywhere, but it definitely gives a lot of commanding presence. This kind of reminds me of when the RDX was first coming out and its concept, and I remember seeing it like, oh, but it looks amazing, and it looks like it has gotten a refresh. Now, Lincoln for a long time has really struggled, ironically, because I use them with Acura. Lincoln has really struggled to keep a presence with the youthful market. Now, if you didn't watch my video about Mercedes-Benz coming up with the CLA, that ties directly into this, so go check that out. But when Mercedes-Benz decided to create the CLA, it was to touch the younger audience. Most of us who are in our millennial stage of life, I am millennial, and it is very apparent that a lot of us can't really afford cars, and luxury cars, especially back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, was designed for people with a low point. And and the Lincoln Nautilus is definitely given 56, 60,000, 65,000 upper echelon. Now it's not quite Hummer EV, and we haven't even gotten to the EVs yet, and I'll get into that in just a second. But the Nautilus has such a commanding presence about it, and the thing is that this was necessary, an injection of youth. Now this isn't the first time they've tried this. The MKZ, after its second iteration, was because the second iteration, well, it was more so a refresh, but a refresh of the MKZ, nobody was really f***ing with, but the second iteration of it, people really forgot about it. And Lincoln is one of those cars that has been referenced in pop culture for so many years. And if you didn't know, JFK was in a Continental when he was unfortunately unalived. And so because of that, he kind of gave legacy to Lincoln in many other ways that we could never have imagined. But I digress. In today's Lincoln versus yesteryear's Lincoln, this is amazing, but got a couple of things I want to know. So the one thing I do absolutely love about it is the grille. The grille, even though it's a day late and $1 short, like somebody else I mentioned, it is definitely fitting. And I love the elements of combining the grille and integrating it and more surround sound. That seems to be a design cue that they were going for, but it's surrounding the entire grill, and it's got like this diamond kind of a diamond pattern in the grill, and that's one of their trademarks. And if you look at the color, the red color that this came with, I haven't looked at the colors yet. I kind of had to rush to do this video, but the red was stunning. It was giving concept color. It's probably a color we'll never see, but it was amazing. And it has stunning appointments. Now, if you've seen the Aviator and you've seen the Navigator, they all are basically hotels on trucks. And this is no different for the Nautilus. And one of the big selling points of this is the 28 speaker Rebel system, but also the big, massive ass 48-inch wraparound display that goes at the driver's cockpit, What's a cockpit? It goes all the way to the driver's cockpit into the passenger side, and it looks gorgeous. The only thing I don't necessarily like about these displays is
it gives cost cutting.
And I know. And this may be a good thing, because with these digital displays, and I know with some of the other manufacturers like BMW and Mercedes and all those other people, you get updates from time to time. So this actually may be a good thing for us, because then they can begin to integrate more software. But again, I did a video on the dangers of AI and software in video, so you can go check that out too. But the 48-inch wraparound,
I think I'll do a wraparound. Wrap around.
It's probably the biggest seller point, because we have never really seen anything like that. But it is really interesting to see how Lincoln really gave a little bit of this time, like bam, 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 bam. It's really good. I will say it looks a lot more useful, but I can tell by the lines from the front to the back, this is going to be a SUV for the Chinese market. This is not American. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I am beginning to see a pattern of departure of luxury manufacturers from the American market into the Chinese market. And as I was saying earlier before I got sidetracked, the American market has dwindled in terms of luxury, because luxury was originally designed for us to be able to afford them once we got into our adult years, our big ass adult years, which many of us are in student loan debt, and we're just basically everything's going to but we're not gonna talk about that today. Luxury vehicles were where you bought your adult car after you got your big promotion. And as time has gone on, it seems more and more that more manufacturers are looking to go elsewhere to sell their products, because honestly, we can't afford them. And that's probably the biggest thing. I have never seen more American cars that are not American. And the same could be said for Japanese and German. Many of them are no longer becoming native to many of them are becoming not so native to their original place, but now they're becoming more and more exported and assembled in other countries, which is not that bad of a deal because it keeps the economy going. Anyway, so back to my point, the Nautilus signifies a change in Lincoln's presence in America. We are beginning to pay for things that should be done here. And we are also beginning to see more influence from the Chinese market. And the Chinese market, if you have not kept up with the rooters and tutors of the automotive industry, the Chinese consumer market has grown exponentially over the last 15 years. And it's very apparent that their influence becomes more and more stately in the designs of these newer SUVs and crossovers, which, by the way, I plan to do a video about the gas guzzler tax of 1973 because that's a big deal. But the Lincoln Nautilus as a whole shows me that it is here to reinvigorate itself as a luxury brand, but not necessarily where it started. And I'm a little taken back because I would have never expected the Lincoln Nautilius, but it also could be a major marketing selling point because now it's not American, so it could completely change the perception of Americans and how they view American luxury. The problem is that it almost is a piece of us are becoming unalive because we don't feel as connected to these brands in the same way that we once did several decades ago. And if you don't know anything about Lincoln in terms of what they used to be to what they are now, Lincoln used to be that. Lincoln used to be like that was Lincoln. And so now this is beginning to show that Ford is focusing more so on global markets and not necessarily domestic, but more importantly, they're going where the fucking money's going. They don't give a damn about what we want here in the States. They want to know, what do we want to buy? And it will be imported from China. And so all things aside, while it has a nice and sleek design, I think it looks great and is a significant improvement. I want to also point out that the engine choices have changed. So you do get the twin turbo V6 dropped, and now they are going to a turbocharged 4-cylinder, which points out about 250 horsepower, but also a hybrid that gives you a total of 310 horsepower, which is where most people are going to want. But I think the bigger issue comes in is that we are not necessarily getting the true American soul into our American cars anymore. And that almost begs the question, where is the future of cars going to go? And I try to stay present and enjoy these things while they're here, but y'all know I like to look forward, because as you can tell from the pandemic, we really need to pay attention going forward, because cars are becoming more and more expensive. And if you don't know anything about me, I love car buying. Car buying is my favorite, and I absolutely love the car buying process. But to be honest with you, I find that more and more people are becoming underwater with these cars. And as this truck is released to the public, it will be upwards of $60,000, which, let's be honest, nobody was really buying Lincolns anyway. So it's not that big of a departure. And that's why they went over to China. But it is a big deal, because it really shows us is that we as Americans are losing our influence to car manufacturers in how we want our cars to be delivered to us. We're beginning to see that change. And so more and more, I am going to continue to watch these car companies. But as a whole, I think that the Lincoln Nautilus is definitely a reinvigoration of the brand and try to get some youthfulness. Hopefully this time it works. When they came out with the MKT and the Ford MKZ under that nomenclature before they went back, it seems like they made the exact same mistake that Acura made, and it just flopped in front of their faces. And part of that is trying to be too much like the German brand. And back when there was stiff competition, back when you had Cadillacs, Buicks, you had Lincolns, you had Chryslers, you had so many other American big names in terms of luxury, and GMC and all those different luxury brands, even Oldsmobile at one point. But they gave us a sense of presence in the American global market, and they let people know that American luxury was big and it was bad. This one kind of doesn't feel that way. It feels more like borderline imposter. And I will go ahead and say that while I love the style, I love the design, I am also able to see that this is not quite the American luxury we're used to getting. And unfortunately, this is probably going to be the future of many more manufacturers as they consolidate and they try to cut costs where they can. So there's that. But anywho, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about the Lincoln Nautilus, because I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. And with that being said, as we go forward, we'll begin to see more and more about the Lincoln Nautilus, and we'll begin to see how it performs in the market and what the journalists say. And until the next episode, I will see you guys later.